You did not get your invite into the VMware Cloud Service Provider Premier program? Then here are 3 questions which you should ask every white label host you are going to work with. Question number 1, how are they going to run support? This is going to be very important because when it comes to a production outage or something else, you need help immediately. So you need to be sure that someone has 7/24 resources on staff and ask them, it's like, how much experience do they have when running this with service providers? How many mission critical support contracts do they currently have with service providers already to operate the support on these levels for them? Second part of this, how are they going to deal with end customer scenarios? There will be support tickets where the end customer has to go on a call with VMware and Broadcom, and VMware and Broadcom will run that call together with your white label host. So are you sure that they are going to not actually talk bad behind your back or anything else? Be sure to clarify how this is going to be handled. Second question. How secure is the end customer data with your upstream white label provider? Because in the end, they must be a provider by themselves, otherwise they can't be in the program. So ask them exactly, it's like, where are we competing with each other? How do we deal with competitive situation? You might be actually bidding on the same customer project or something else. How exactly are they going to handle these specific situations? And can you really be sure that they never touch your customer data? Are they willing to actually put a contractual clause in there that if you catch them with this, that they are going to have to pay a fee to you? Ask them how they are going to deal with this. The second part of this question is going to be, how are they dealing or competing with you potentially on the professional services perspective? Most service providers also provide some kind of professional services. So even if they are not competing with you in the hosting space, are they competing with you in the professional services space? And how easy is it actually for you to protect that? And the third part of the questions is going to be, how can they help you when you actually need to evolve your infrastructure, when you need to grow your infrastructure? Many of the people out there have experience in doing architecture, but there is only a very handful of professional services companies who do on a daily business architecture for service providers. And so it's very important to understand, it's like, how good can they advise you? Someone who is good in the core and commercial enterprise field is not necessarily a good advisor for a service provider from an architecture perspective. Many of you have experienced that over the last couple of years. And the second part out of it is, we don't yet know how education is going to run in the future. Should VMware not make education available to the broad media anymore? And then how are you going to consume that kind of education? Will they offer their own kind of trainings? Do they have an on-demand platform? Do they run regular events and things like that? So keep all of these questions in mind when you pick your white label upstream provider. So start about thinking the different scenarios. How are we going to handle support? How safe is my customer data? And finally, how are we talking about development, architecture, as well as business and technical team development? If you get good answers for these questions, then you can be sure that you have a good white label host for yourself.